My name is Madeline. For all of my life, I have been a fan of racing games. I hadn't been able to find many YouTubers who play these kinds of games, so I decided to try my hand at it. I may not be the best, far from it actually, but my overarching goal is to be able to tell a compelling story through my actions within the games. As those of you watching have seen, I chose to open my channel with highlights from Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. I chose this game first because the Hot Pursuit games have been favorites of mine, going all the way back to the original on the Sony PlayStation. When Hot Pursuit was rebooted in 2010 by Criterion Games, the makers of the Burnout series, I was overjoyed. I played it to completion on my Xbox 360 when I was in high school, and when it was re-released on the Xbox One a decade later, that spirit of adrenaline was rekindled in its entirety. So, what is it about this game that really draws me in? I want to take you back to a time when reality TV was still figuring itself out. The television network Court TV, later rebranded to True TV, would air episodes of World's Wildest Police videos, narrated by retired Sheriff John Bennell. The program would show various video clips from police chases, sting operations, riots, and other high-profile law enforcement incidents from around the world. Bennell's commentary was what sold the series so well. He made every video seem like something straight out of an action movie. Other law enforcement officers would be brought into the show to give breakdowns of police procedure. It's something I wish I could have emulated in my videos, but I was a bit nervous to do so. Thankfully, the voice acting in Hot Pursuit was sufficient enough to help carry the narrative. At least, I think so. The presentation of World's Wildest Police videos was also very unbiased. Bad cops were called out, and mistakes were discussed with full transparency. The series even took into account that the legal systems in other countries will differ from the American system in many ways, and that things we might not understand about those systems are totally understood by the people who live in those countries. It is a different paradigm when compared to how police procedural is discussed in the modern era. The militarization of police forces across the United States at the turn of the 21st century has led to many high-profile cases of police brutality, excessive force, and more than a handful of heinous tragedies. Because of those events in the real world, it leads to a change of cultural perception, which a series like Need for Speed has to accommodate for. Hot Pursuit 2010, and its remaster by association, marks a cultural turning point in the Need for Speed narrative. For example, if we look at Most Wanted and Carbon from the years 2005 and 2006 respectively, their police forces are portrayed in a more objective manner. Sergeant Cross is a tough on street racing, but plays by the book kind of cop. He isn't what you would call underhanded, and when he fails to catch the player at the end of the game, despite throwing the entirety of the Rockport Police Department at you, he does understandably get fired for his screw-ups. In Carbon, there is no police character that stands out. Cross returns as a private bounty hunter, but he still fights fair and leaves the player alone once the player's bounty is paid off. The police in the game continue to do everything by the book, and there's no discussion that needs to be had there. The plot of Need for Speed Undercover, which came out in 2008, continues this trend for a little longer. In that game, you are an undercover cop working alongside the FBI to infiltrate a gang of street racers accused of flipping stolen cars. The game does feature an ex-cop who turned to crime, and that one of the FBI agents you are working with is also involved with the criminal scheme, but to the game's credit, the police still fight fair. Hot Pursuit 2010 is where that narrative begins to change. Players who side with the law are given access to the standard police fare of roadblocks, spike strips, and police helicopters, which can also drop spike strips from the air. What is new to the series is the use of EMP charges, literal electronic warfare. At the time of the game's 2010 release, this technology would never have been used in a real-life police chase due to the risks it would pose to civilian bystanders in the vicinity of a pursuit. Apparently, that has begun to change, with the development of a device known as RF Safe Stop, created by the UK company E2V. Safe Stop is a forward-firing electromagnetic pulse, which temporarily overloads a vehicle's electronic management systems and forces it to slow to a stop. Prior to this, EMP weaponry were mostly military technologies, and their use cases were equally controversial. Now, if you side with the criminals in Hot Pursuit, you can utilize stolen EMP technology, stolen spike strips, reverse-engineered jamming tech, and custom turbo hacks. You are essentially using most of the police's tactics against them. This leads to the police using taxpayer money to finance faster and faster vehicles. We see this in real life often in countries such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, rich oil nations where driving a Bugatti Veyron or a Lamborghini Diablo are commonplace. Pursuit Lamborghinis do exist, and the police forces of rich Middle Eastern nations have several at their disposal. Where Hot Pursuit is concerned, the result of all of this is nothing short of spectacular. Many of the pursuits which occur in the game lean so heavily into excessive force that entire police departments would be disbanded if anything remotely close to them happened in real life. And it's done that way for a reason. The successor to this game was Most Wanted 2012. Sadly, I never got to play that because I had sold my Xbox 360 in 2011, and the game was never ported to the Xbox One. I suppose I could pick it up for PC, and maybe someday I will. Supposedly, the game lacks a story, so police conduct mirrored that of Hot Pursuit 2010. Need for Speed The Run came out in between these two games, but it told a vastly different story, and police procedural was minimal in that game, unless you count the Chicago helicopter gunship scene, but let's not talk about that because it's really stupid. After Hot Pursuit 2010 and Most Wanted 2012, Need for Speed Rivals came out. Rivals was a collaborative work between Criterion Games and Ghost Games. Thankfully, I was able to play this one because it is on the Xbox One. Rivals is honestly one of the best Need for Speed games ever made, in my opinion. You can fight me on that all you want, but I won't yield. It is more stylistically beautiful than Hot Pursuit, which is already a beautiful game, and it builds on everything that I guess Most Wanted 2012 was trying to. Most importantly, Rivals has a story, which builds on everything that Hot Pursuit was going for with its story. The depiction of the police in Rivals is that they have carte blanche to exploit taxpayer money, break the law as part of their job, use excessive force taken up to 11, and completely get away with all of it. I personally would love to do a Let's Play series on Rivals. The only problem is that the game itself has server issues, and will crash on startup if it can't connect to the servers. Surprisingly, you don't have this problem if you aren't an Xbox Gold member, but seeing as I pay the $60 every year, I find it too much of a hassle to grab footage for. Maybe I'll decide on it in the future, but it's not looking like I'll do it anytime soon. Hopefully this word salad of the last several minutes has given some context to my love of the game and to other games in the series. To round out this discussion, I need to bring up the elephant in the room. The whole question of which side am I on personally? When I made these videos, I tried my best to even them out. A cop episode, then a racer episode, rinse and repeat up to the final showdowns. Both finale episodes ended in casualties for the main character of the episode. This was intentional. When both sides are using the same cars and the same tactics and experiencing the same bad outcomes, is there really a winner here? Not to get overly political, but in real life, my own reactions with law enforcement have been rather mixed over the years. While I have had experiences with cops who have genuinely tried to help me in bad situations, there have also been those who left me to struggle through equally bad situations. There was also one case in particular where I nearly got arrested, all because I yelled at an officer to just go home when they refused to file a police report for me during a motor vehicle accident, which I'm pretty sure is their job to do. So taking everything into consideration here, I'm going to stick with my prevailing opinion that putting on a uniform does not change who you are. If you are a dirtbag out of a uniform, that's not going to change when you put it on. Conversely, if you are altruistic and truly care about others, then the uniform is simply a means to an end. As far as Need for Speed Hot Pursuit is concerned, I play the police events far more than the racer events because there's something just sadistically fun about calling in a helicopter and watching as it rains havoc from above. If that makes me a bad person, I really sincerely do not care. Final thoughts on the game, well, I noticed while playing the remaster that the game is a lot more buggy than I remember it being. Some of the clips I left in my videos show other vehicles wrecking out when I should have wrecked out, jammers straight up not working, EMPs either hitting or missing when the opposite should have happened, and so on. A lot of these events worked in my favor, so it's not like I'm complaining here. Hot Pursuit isn't meant to be a traditional racing game. It falls under the category of battle racing, placing it alongside games like Burnout and Split Second, which you will definitely see more of in future video releases. Will Hot Pursuit get a second season from me? Maybe, if viewers demand it. I love it enough that I could record it every day for a year and never get tired of it, even doing the same events over and over again with different vehicles for a bit of variety. Let me know what you think about that in the comments, and thank you so much for watching.